Steel Industries. Today we're going to be touching on the hybrid setup. So a lot of people have been kind of playing with this recently, typically a monocular and a thermal setup of some sort bridged to a single dovetail mount. Gage, before we get into the use cases and everything for it, can you tell us about these individual units a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our standard Elbit white phosphor PVS-14 here. Really, you can use any PVS-14. Moving along here, we have the RH25. Really, you can use any thermal that has a 1x magnification. We just have an RH25 here. This unit features a 640 core, up to 4x digital magnification, and has a detection range of 1,375 yards. Really, the use case for something like this with a hybrid setup is for detection. With night vision devices, they can kind of be defeated by camo. I know recently we did a company force-on-force training event, and we really got to test out the use cases for these devices. So maybe you want to talk about that?
Yeah, certainly. So if you've spent time with other people, especially under night vision, and it's not ideal lighting conditions, you will know, like you kind of touched on, night vision can be defeated, and it's not as difficult as everyone might think. So without a lot of movement, you can hide from night vision. However, thermal, you're seeing in a whole different spectrum. Obviously, you're seeing the heat signatures. This is very difficult to hide from, especially if you're within line of sight. There's not too many options out there to hide from it, except good tactics, if you will, or hiding, getting out of sight. So that is really the use case for this, is the entire detection system. Now, we did, like you said, do a force-on-force training together, and this is the setup that a few of us tried. So as you guys might know, this is my personal helmet setup, but on there, we do have a Panobridge. This is from Noisefighters. Quick note with that, the Panobridge from the factory is for 2 PVS-14, so you will have to get the adapter separately for, in this case, the RH25. But this is a great setup. Number one, it's very light, at least from the mount perspective it is, because you're adding a decent amount of weight on, so you want to save as much weight as possible. Also, you have a nice articulating feature. And lastly, what I liked is the quick detach method. So there's a little release at the back here, and you can pick this off and you can give it to your buddy. You can take it off just because it might be a little extra weight on your head. But that's a really cool feature of this specific setup. Now, Gage, there's a couple issues that people tend to have with hybrid setups. Can you touch on a few of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things to keep in mind is the actual color mode of the thermal. So this unit here has white hot, black hot, red hot, and color hot. Generally, you want either black or white hot to be able to merge these images, because adding color and different things like that can kind of throw off your brain. Another thing is refresh rate. You really want to get a thermal device with the highest refresh rate you can. With a PVS-14, that's really not an issue, but when it comes to thermals, since it's digital, you do have to worry about that. I know you got some experience with that, so maybe
I did, yeah, yep. And like you mentioned, an analog device paired with a digital device is going to have a little bit of work for your brain added. The images aligning is another issue too, and that comes to the mount itself a lot of times, and partially your brain too. So thankfully, I didn't have an issue with getting those images aligned. Thankfully, we had a good mount. We had some help from our friends at Noisefighters to get this setup kind of dialed in a little bit. But one thing that you didn't actually touch on is the nuking. So nuking with thermal devices is basically just a recalibration of the sensor. So you'll sometimes hear a slight clicking noise, or you'll just see the video, feed kind of pause, and then it will come back on and it will be fine. But that's what got to me rather than the refresh rate. I actually had an okay time with that. Another thing that got to me a little bit was the weight. So I'm used to just running a PVS-14 on a ballistic helmet with a counterweight, so it's a very balanced setup. Adding this added a decent amount of weight. Now, other thermals weigh less, some probably weigh more. That's kind of your wheelhouse, Gage, but that was a thing that I noticed. You might have to rebalance your helmet slightly, or just get used to that little extra strain and use that feature, at least with this mount, where you can take it off really easily.
Yeah, touching on that, the weight thing, we do have an RH25 here just because that's what we use in our demo setup. But there are lighter options out there such as the MH25, the Armacite Sidekick, Fleer Breach, and kind of different options in a smaller package. But this is just the setup that we have here. So you guys kind of do have to play around with that and keep weight in mind when you're putting together this setup.
All right, thanks, Gage. Yeah, if you have any questions on this setup, setups like it, or other options, feel free to reach out to us. Gage, how can they do that?
You guys can reach us via our live chat feature on our website, phone call, or email. Or if you guys did want to get your hands on this setup and get actual experience with it before you purchase, we do have a location here in Bradenton, Florida, where you guys can call and schedule an appointment. Really, I do recommend that if you have the option to, if you're going to be bridging these devices, just because it can be a little strenuous on your brain.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Gage. All right, guys, get out, use your night vision, and as always, stay nocturnal.